It's been a few days since we've talked about everything. The 2-game suspension from Sherrone Moore, and we're more calm now after having gone all in on Monday. We've collected our thoughts, and now it's your turn to ask the questions. The Michigan Mailbag is back in full effect, and we're doing it on the Thursday like we like to do. So you got your questions, we've got your answers. This episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Thursday. We are back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Wohl, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group, and we are back with the Michigan Mailbag. And it's the first one we've had. This is only the second episode of the week. We kind of pushed some things back. Spoiler alert, tomorrow we're going to have David Cohn on the show, former Michigan quarterback, one of the hosts of Creating Company. We will have more thoughts on some of the things that have happened this week, but we're going to do that more Friday, Saturday, theoretically. But let's start with our leaders and best with the Michigan Mailbag, James Crudup at James Crudup 6. Who specifically is giving the green light for these self-imposed punishments? Why are they so hesitant to fight the NCAA and make them throw their cards on the table in court? Seems to work out well for everybody else. I believe that would be the athletic department. I'm not really sure because I perhaps the Board of Regents is involved. I would think this is more of an athletic department scenario. So that would mean Ward and Doug and whoever else is involved there. I don't really know exactly the people who are the decision makers who have to sign off on it and all of that stuff and where the buck stops per se. I do think, and I want to have some disambiguation here with the Tennessee, because I saw some of your comments on some of the message boards saying like, oh, Tennessee had to pay $100. They had to get rid of Jeremy Pruitt. Tennessee wanted to get rid of Jeremy Pruitt. I'm going to credit Steve Dace for this, but they wanted to get rid of Jeremy Pruitt. They actually paid less to the NCAA than they would have had to pay Jeremy Pruitt for the buyout, right? They wanted to, and they were able to get out of paying that whole buyout. I agree that the best thing that they could have done is get it to court, because that's where the NCAA doesn't really want to fight. And honestly, like they could have been ruled in favor of, like, well, they're the ones who wrote the bylaws. They're allowed to enforce it. But the arbitrary enforcement, I've spoken to some people who have seen the response to Michigan's response, and it sounds like there's really not a heck of a lot more clarity there. I'll get to that because we got a question that's asked somewhat of that. I don't know why you wouldn't want to get it to the most legal place. I guess it's just because the old guard used to be, hey, if you cooperate with the NCAA and do everything they ask, then they're super lenient on you. Well, to some degree, Michigan as an administration did that. You can argue about that people like Jim Harbaugh or Connor or whatever, Sherrone, but like the administration certainly went along with the NCAA. And what did they get for their trouble? The NCAA finding a heck of a lot other things that they were able to add on to the notice of allegations. So if I'm Michigan, I want to get it to court. But they don't seem to want to do that. Now, it still might end up there if the NCAA decides that they're going to be really heavy-handed. But like, I would have done everything I could to get it to court as fast as possible. My brother in metal, Michael Wolf at MWolf21. Which, brother, I saw your text and I forgot to respond because I've just been doing stuff around the house, yard work and such. So I am publicly apologizing to you. Is Jim Harbaugh the Bo Schembechler of Sherrone's career? I wouldn't go that far. Certainly he's been a mentor, but it's not quite the same. I think that the closer one would probably be for Sherrone. It's just not a 1-to-1. The closer one would be Bob Stoops. Because keep in mind, Jim didn't coach under Bo, but he certainly went to Bo, and you can look at Sherrone and he's certainly influenced by Jim in the way that he runs things. But you could also say Jim was influenced by Sherrone, right? And Sherrone very much was part of the change. And I was as skeptical as any when they replaced my guy, Ed Warner, with Sherrone. And But, that's when kind of the mentality of the team shifted, was when the smash of it all happened. But Bob Stoops is probably closer to it, but it's just not an apples to apples comparison, because Jim grew up around Bo. So he watched Bo work as a coach, and then he played under Bo, and then he was able to lean on him for some mentorship. But obviously Jim didn't really go the assistant route, had like 1 year with the Raiders coaching Rich Gannon. And then after that went and did became a head coach. So really there isn't a 1-to-1, but certainly he's got a big part in his career. Jonathan Joseph at JJoseph2156. Where have you heard the QB races? What's going on with Keen? I've heard Keen's not practicing. They're throwing because practice is over until fall camp. I mean, it seems like it's like, I would be shocked if anyone is the starter game one if it's not Bryce. That's just where I'm at. Prepare for it to be Bryce, barring some kind of setback. It's going to be Bryce. Keen's got some mental things that Bryce, Keen's played in a hostile big house. Keen has been in hostile environments. You're certainly going to get that being Fresno State, traveling places. That's something that you can't teach. But I think that Bryce is he's just got it, and you might as well just start him. And as far as I've heard, that's probably what's going to happen. Finishing us out in segment one, Spencer Whitmore at Spencer Whitmore. Who would you have taken over the team for 2 weeks? I read on before Sherrone will miss the prep week, so as well, I think it's supposed to say. I would say Biff Poggi. I don't know if that, I'm assuming that they can do that, because before it was no, that coach is suspended, that coach doesn't exist. But that time in 2023, the analyst couldn't coach, right? So I think at this point, technically you could promote Biff to be that guy. That's what I would do. He's got the most experience as far as that's concerned. Allow all the rest of the coaches to continue to have their roles, instead of trying to have Chip Lindsey, who's been a head coach before, be the OC and the head coach, or Wink Martindale be the DC and the head coach. I would much rather it be a situation where you've got someone else that's already kind of a quasi head coach just off to the side in Biff Poggi. That's who I would pick. So if that's possible, that's what I would go. I'm not as well versed in how that would work, but that's what I would do. All right, we're going to continue on. We've got plenty more. We got the Victor's Valley coming up, and we're going to get to them here in just a moment. But before we do, there's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena, and with Game Time, you can be part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when the demand is sky high. Prices on the app actually go down as tip-off gets closer, and their last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. With their last-minute deals, you can save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, all of the above. And the all-in pricing means no surprise fees at checkout. So what you see is what you pay. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, we've still got a lot of questions. I think this kind of worked out. I forgot. I wanted to lock that thread. Hopefully people aren't continuing to ask questions. Let's get to the Victor's Valley, and let's start with Chubbs. GB at Talk with Chubbs. I think Semaj is and can be a good wide receiver, but what type of year does he have to become the wide receiver he talks about being, or what we need him to be? I think you just need him to be it's the same thing as AJ Henning. I think you want Semaj to be a 40 catches, 500, 600 yards type of guy, right? I don't think you sit there and look at him and say he's going to be your number one guy. I don't want to see, granted, he came down with that downfield throw against Texas, right? That's not the type of guy that you shouldn't be using him in that, unless it's a complete, we're going to completely catch you off guard type of scenario. I think you want him to be a kind of AJ Henning in 2021, but maybe even he's not as dynamic as AJ in my opinion. But that's the type of guy you want him to be, I think. That's kind of all I got. Now listen, I would love for him to be 1,000 plus yard receiver. I don't think that's happening. I would love for him to be the star of college football. Everybody would get a camera in his face. I love Semaj, and I love his dad. And I love when I get to talk to his dad and be like, Semaj said this at the last press conference, and his reactions. I'm almost tearing up because out of like joy, because it brings me such joy. Semaj brings me such joy. There's that. Edwin Simmons at Simmons_Edwin. Happy Thursday, my brother in Christ. Pray all as well. Well, pray for me because I'm leading my first Bible study tonight. That's going to be fun. The 2 games Sherrone will be suspended. Who do you believe will have the role as head coach? So we obviously already covered that. I would add, if not Biff, then I would love to go the not coordinator route, and I would love for it to be someone like Lou Esposito, who also has head coaching experience. That way you're not fully taking away. You could always have one of the analysts. Like it's just, I would rather have a position coach rather than a coordinator be that guy. You've seen like Sherrone did a good job being in the interim head coach for those 3 games. But like, did it feel like the team had the same, like, I'm going to put my foot on your throat in those games as the ones where he was just solely the offensive coordinator? No. So I would love to see, for those 2 games, it either be Biff Poggi or one of the assistants. And to me, the only assistant that's like obvious would be Lou Esposito, because as I think about it, I don't know that anyone else has the head coaching experience outside of Chip Lindsey, but lots of coordinators. So it kind of doesn't matter as much, I don't think, as far as rotation. I think there's enough leadership in that room that you don't have to worry about it. You can kind of just make it go. I'm not the one at William Cawthorne 9. Why do you think, who do you think, are the draftable players on this team? The entire rotation of defensive linemen, edge, interior. So there's 10 guys there right now, at least, that I think will get drafted at some point. I think all of them. TJ Guy, Derek Moore, Rayshawn Benny. I mean, you can go down the list and go to Enoetta, Trey Pierce, Ike Iwunnah. Ike Iwunnah might be undrafted, but I think that would be a mistake. I think he's a lot better than he's getting credit for. Both starting linebackers, probably Jimmy Rolder, most of the safeties. Jair Hill starting to get mocked as a first-round pick. I'm sure there's a role for Zeke Berry out there. Offensively, both running backs, a couple of the offensive linemen. That's still kind of up in the air as far as which ones at this point. I think Hogan Hansen is going to be a high-end tight end draft pick, and we'll see on wide receivers outside of Donovan McCulley. And obviously Bryce Underwood. And right now, Bryce is the only quarterback I would say is draftable. Is the sky falling at Michigan? I think that's about the suspension, all that. No, it's, I think it's stupid because he deleted the text and then produced them. I think it's stupid, but whatever. Why is problem to say you're good if you're good? Why is it considered cocky or brash? So if Tom Brady says I'm him, would people not like him? No offense, William. I don't understand what you're saying. I'm sorry. It's not a problem to say if you're good. You just better back it up, right? I remember having that conversation with Donovan Edwards at one point. I'm like, you better back up the things that you say. Otherwise, like, you can't go out there and say that you're like the second coming of Walter Payton and not produce, man. You got to do it. That's the thing. I don't know, but humility is always best, in my opinion, right? It's best to just be humble instead of saying how good you are and all of that, saying I'm him. That's part of that's the Jesus follower in me. Part of that is the person that grew up watching Barry Sanders, was on plenty of teams that won sportsmanship awards, the real trophies. Win or lose, we were going to be kind to you. Just my take. Gary Moore at GDog4UM7. The receiver position has been underwhelming for a while now. Even Roman Wilson, though really good, wasn't a high-impact performer. Is the hiring of Soup Campbell to assist with receivers a signal that they feel Bellamy needs help there? I mean, I think if you can bring in a Soup Campbell, you do it anyway, because he oversaw like the golden years of Michigan receiving, right? Like, it's not that like you necessarily look at it, because I've talked to some people that inside the building feel like, and I know a lot of you might disagree with this, but this is what I'm telling you. They believe that Bellamy is among the better coaches in the building, but I think part of it's the talent, part of it's been the quarterback. You know, there's just been a mixture of things. And I think with the guy like Soup, who's got the experience of producing David Terrells and Ty Streets and Braylon Edwards and Mario Manninghams and, you know, Jason Avance and all of those types of people, I think that you bring that type of guy in, because Bellamy, I mean, he produced Ron Bellamy. It just helps, right? Like, if you can add a guy that can coach alongside him with fresh eyes, that helps, right? Like, you could have the best wide receiver coach in the country, which is probably Brian Hartline, unfortunately, and you could bring in like another really good wide receiver coach to coach alongside him. You do it. That's just how it is in college football right now. DJN at Maze Rage 86. I'll be honest, I'm in the group of fans who don't celebrate Connor Stalions or how he went about things. However, given the secret cabal he claims exists within the conference who shares team intel is true, would another sign stealer going public take some of the heat off him or Michigan? I mean, it absolutely would, but that's just not going to happen. That's the problem. It's just not going to happen. They're going to save their own hide at this point. I still don't. Here's the thing, and I understand there's people that are against it. Like, he wasn't doing anything out of the ordinary. He was just doing what he was doing better than anyone else. And on top of it, you had teams out there that are more than willing to burn down Michigan to give themselves a little, like, sometimes some people and organizations are going to try to step on you to climb the ladder. You know what I mean? I was going to do a ladder climb. I don't know what the point of the pantomiming there was. But, like, it's one of those things where Ohio State is more than happy to let Michigan be viewed in the media as it is. Why? Because if for no other reason than all of the heat that was on Ryan Day that all these fans have suddenly forgotten because they won the national championship, they don't have to deal with it, right? Like, as much. They can just sit there and say, oh, yeah, it wasn't really our fault that we lost those 4 in a row because of cheating. Because of cheating, right? Like, Michigan State can do the same thing. Like, oh, well, I see people talking out of both sides of their mouth too. Like, Michigan State, said a fan posted Kenneth Walker highlights against Michigan in 2021 and was like, see, Michigan knew all of the signals, which they don't signal. They huddle. Actually, they did signal there, I think, in that game, but like, they're like, Michigan knew all the signals and yet, they couldn't stop him. It's like, well, then how valuable is it? I do want to have a point of disambiguation here. I love that word. I see a lot of people saying like the Michigan offense knew exactly what the opposite defense is, that was on Connor. Connor was defense to offense, by the way, FYI. So just FYI. Jacob Shavaria at Shavaria, please reference any actual NCAA rule that Connor broke. I mean, they say it's bylaw 1163. This is where I was going to get into it. I have heard, don't hold me to this, heard from a good source who spoke to someone else who has read NCAA's response. Michigan's response to NCAA was, tell us what rule that Connor broke. And the NCAA's response was essentially, I've heard, Connor had people go with cell phones into the stands. And it doesn't actually answer the question. And it's just that over and over and over again, essentially. That's the thing. It's negligible and they have no proof of anything really, truly in their possession. It's a lot of hearsay, things that wouldn't hold up in court, but it's not a court of law, so they can kind of do what they want. Said since he can 100% be hired back, why haven't they? I mean, he could be, but he's going to get a show cause. There's no point in doing that if you're the administration, given a lot of the stuff that's happened there. How would the NCAA respond if Connor stepped in for Sherrone as head coach for his 2-game suspension? That would be legendary. That would probably make the NCAA very angry and make them come down on Michigan harder. Like, let's just be real. All right, we're starting to run low on time. I've got to hurry up a little bit. Perry Mitchell away. Since he's already an assistant position coach on staff, how do you view Jack Tuttle's trajectory as a future QB coach and eventual OC in the sport? I couldn't tell you because I couldn't tell you how well of a coach he is or not. I just don't know. I wish I could tell you more. I just don't know. Great Bambino X, a Colossus Clout X. Scale of 1 to 10, how insecure are Ohio fans, and why is it an 11? LOL, seriously, though, when will they stop with the conspiracies after consecutive L number 5? No, they're never going to stop. You just got to come to peace with that. It's always going to be, like, you could give them obvious proof of anything. You can question their football knowledge. They don't care, right? It's a coping mechanism. It just is. And like, we called them soft back in before the game in 2021, and they've done nothing but prove it. As far as like, they've done nothing but prove it. So I don't know. And I'm not talking all Ohio State fans. I'm just talking about the vocal crazy ones. Clark at Blue for Life 8. How much do you believe the suspension to Moore will impact recruiting? I don't think it will. I don't think it will at all. Right. Because all the guys that are going to be here for it are already enrolled. So it doesn't really matter. Mike Matthews at Michigan Mike 7. Do you think that the leaked 2-game suspension on Moore will be the eventual punishment, or the NCAA want more for this overblown investigation? They absolutely are going to want more. Right. In a negotiation, it's going, like it's Michigan's saying 2. They're going to say 4. Maybe they end up at 3. I don't know. I think the having it the 2 games of Michigan's choice probably doesn't help, honestly. Yoder 77. What's your prediction on who the starting offensive line is game 1? I'll go with Evan Link, Giovanni El Hadi, Greg Crippen, Nathan Afobe. Very well could be Lawrence Tatar or Evan Link, and you could have Babalola out on the other end, but that's not what I'm predicting right this second. And then Andrew Sprague. And then finishing us out in segment 2, the Rican Raider at Amstand 87. How do you think Michigan will approach the House settlement? Will it be a boon for recruiting? Again, thanks for all you do. You're very welcome. And honestly, I haven't really paid attention to it, so I can't give you a very good answer. I don't know. And I'd like to tell you when I don't know. And when I'm not going to pretend. So, all right, we don't have much time. We're going to continue on. We've got plenty more here. We'll get to all of the rest of your questions here in just a moment. But before we do, did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign in to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Avowed as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. With the Wi-Fi 6/6E and auto low latency mode advanced technology, Fire TV Stick 4K delivers smoother, more responsive gameplay with lightning fast speeds you need to stay competitive. With 4K streaming, you can also watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribe services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and more. So head to Amazon.com/FireTV locked on to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible remote controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. All right, I took way too long. We got a lightning round these. Apologies, folks. It wasn't the plan. NB Hunt at NB Hunt 10. When's the hammer coming? 2 laughing emojis. Again, like the hammer's going to be like Michigan fines, maybe like a recruiting, kind of like what you're seeing right now. Like they're not out recruiting for a couple weeks type of thing. Maybe a scholarship, small scholarship reduction. And then mostly it's going to be Jim Harbaugh, Chris Partridge, Connor Stalions, and show causes. It's not going to be with could I be wrong? Absolutely. I have no sources within the NCAA. Okay. Could I be wrong? It's absolutely possible. The chances of me being wrong here based off of the conversations I've had is unlikely. What Ohio State and Michigan State fans are wishing for is unlikely to come to pass. Now, Will they celebrate it like whatever it is, like it is game changing? Absolutely. Josh Houghton at Josh Y. Houghton 86. Are we, the Michigan faithful, being naive what's going to happen in the football program as far as punishment? Someone who plays maize and blue and lives in Ohio, there is a whole lot of chatter lately. It's wishful thinking, man. Like the chatter is not, it's been divorced from reality. Like when Michigan had its response to the NOA, Ohio State fans acted like everything was like this was the sign that everything was burning down. You see them saying the same thing about Santa Ono. He's fleeing the Titanic. No, it has nothing to do with athletics. It's right. They did the same thing with the Matt. They're going to talk. That's just what they're going to do. The dude, Matt K and MI, do you feel like the rivalry with Ohio State has now been diminished? If so, what's needed to hype it up again? No, it's not been diminished at all. I think they're trying to diminish it in terms of on-field results because it's part of their coping mechanism. I think that it's always kind of been this. It's been lopsided for a decade at a time. And unfortunately for Michigan, it was like 2 decades for Ohio State. But generally, this is kind of how it's gone. I mean, actually, in most of the 80s and 90s, Michigan won. It's the same as it's always been. Actually, it's more toxic than it's ever been. So there's that. Nolan at Nolan Lean 43. Did you think Steve Dace made a good point during his podcast regarding Ward? Why would they self-impose another suspension when it made no impact when they did it for Jim? Yeah, I said the same exact thing actually on Monday's episode, so I'll just defer you to that. Team 146 at the team always. How much patience do Michigan fans need to have with the offense? New OC, true freshman QB. More patience than you're probably willing to have, but less than you would normally have with those scenarios, right? Michigan had the 4th worst passing game in the entire country. The only teams that were worse than Michigan were service academies. So, yeah, I don't expect it to be 2019 LSU. Maybe in a couple of years, Bryce Jr. year, possible. But this year, just hope that it's middling. Expect that it's at least going to take a step forward. Fisherman Phil at Phil with a long number. Is there an NCAA investigation into Ohio State hacking into Michigan's computers and potentially other schools' computers? I don't know that that's Ohio State that did that, right? Like there was a hack of some sort. I don't know who did it. What's new with Day's brother, quote, receiving information about Michigan sign stealing? I don't know that we're ever going to know the answer to it. Anything about the supposed PI, and if it was Day's brother. I don't know if it was Day's brother or not. It seems like it was. I don't know that we're ever going to get the answers to that. Like, it became too public at around the time that the people who were funding this, like the looking into it, got somewhat excommunicated. And by now, all tracks are probably covered. So I don't know that we'll ever have the answers to it, unfortunately. Javier Gregson at Damani G, or I think that Damon JG 78. Do you think Jaden Davis will hit the transfer portal? I don't think so right now. That doesn't mean that down the road he might not. All right, I got a minute left here. Jerron Snavely, in your opinion, what is causing the Jair Hill hype? He was someone that had high hills and low valleys last year. What is causing many outsiders to call him a top corner in the draft next year? Probably physical prowess, looking at the highlights and not the lowlights and expecting him to develop. We'll see if that comes to pass. And I think it's also Michigan's track record with cornerbacks in general. But they rarely have first round corners. I got 45 seconds and 4 more questions. The Maze and Boo, if you had to pick one and get rid of the other, Justice Haynes or Jordan Marshall, I'm not making that decision. No offense. Backus duo. Do you think the fan base of Michigan has relaxed since we won our natty? Personally, all I wanted since I've consumed a lot less Michigan content per day. Yes, that's definitely happened. Paychecks have definitely taken a hit. Maze and Blue, true. Should we be worried about our primary receivers having drops? Not yet. I mean, again, those weren't really many of the primary receivers. 15 seconds left. Anthony Tomlinson at Banks_design. Starting running back game 1. I'm going with Justice Haynes. I've been pretty consistent going with Justice Haynes all the way through. Going to stick with it. That's going to do it for us. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you again soon. Peace.